Reno Omokri, former presidential spokesperson to Goodluck Abel Jonathan on new media, has said it is very hard for a single woman to satisfy the libido of a normal man. Reno Omokri said this and more yesterday while responding to questions from followers on his social media account sequel to the announcement of second wife and a baby by Nollywood star actor, Yul Edochie. Yul Edochie announced his marriage with Judith Austin on social media on Wednesday with a baby boy. According to Yul Edochie, "It's time for the world to meet my son. His name is Star Dyke Munakim So Yul Edochie. Born by my second wife at Judy Austin 1. And I love him so much, just as much as I love my other children." The announcement has generated more reactions and concerns from members of the public. Reno Omokri, while responding to questions on the issue, said he believes polygamy is not a sin, adding, "God gave David many wives." Excerpts of Reno Omokri's statements. Dear Uche Chuda, thank you for your question. I generally would prefer to mind my own business, but as this is a direct question to me from you, a gubernatorial candidate, about Yul, who relates very well with me, I will respond to it. In my personal opinion, I don't think polygamy is a sin. Scripture is crystal clear that God himself gave David many wives, 2 Samuel 12:8. Abraham, Jacob, and many godly men were polygamists, and it was a regular way of life in Scripture amongst everyday people. For instance, Samuel's father, Elkanah, was a polygamist, 1 Samuel 1:2. Polygamy is only forbidden for bishops, overseers and elders in the church, 1 Timothy 3:2. Monogamy is a Western construct, not a Christian one. The modern marriage vows we use in Black Africa is a curse. It is not scriptural. If you, Che, can show it to me in Scripture, I will give you $50,000. And you know of my financial ability more than most people. It was adopted from Europe. It is very hard for a single woman to satisfy the libido of a normal man. And this is the reason we have such a high rate of what we call cheating in our society. Compare the rate of cheating in Europe and America with that of Saudi Arabia and Jordan, and my point becomes clear. Sadly, Black Africans have accepted this Western construct as a Christian one. Which is why we are now becoming tolerant of same-sex marriage, and are very intolerant of polygamy. Meanwhile, you find polygamy in Scripture, Exodus 21:10, and the very thought of the other is abominable according to Scripture, Leviticus 18:22. I will not counsel any man to marry more than one wife, but I will say that polygamy is by far better than adultery and fornication. But, these are my personal views. Dear Dennis Okier UFO. Thank you for your question. When Christ said from the beginning it was not so in Matthew 19:8, he was referring to divorce, not polygamy. Christ's Father himself, the God who sits on the throne, and the one who sent Christ to earth, gave David multiple wives in 2 Samuel 12:8. Using from the beginning it was not so to nullify polygamy is a misapplication of Scripture. In the beginning God gave man 2 legs to move about. Today, men move about in cars. Are they sinning? Of course not. You have to realize that marriage was invented by God in the Garden of Eden, Genesis 2:24. This was before the fall of man. Adam and Eve were innocent. They had perfect bodies. At that time, there was nothing like sexual intercourse and libido. They were naked and were not ashamed, Genesis 2:25. The first time sexual intercourse was mentioned in Scripture was after the fall when Adam and Eve were driven from Eden, Genesis 4:1. Sexual intercourse is a carnal nature that you see after the fall. That is why Christ preached sexual celibacy to his disciples for those who were called out by God, Matthew 19:11-12. To understand the pre-fall state of man, you need to understand the state that man will be restored to after the resurrection on the last day. At that time, those counted worthy to be resurrected will not engage in sexual relations. You can read it yourself in Matthew 22:30. The challenge with many people is that they do not know that Scripture has a theme that began in the paradise of Eden, and will end in the paradise of God. So, don't just focus on what happened in the middle. Go back to the beginning and you will understand how we got where we are, and how we will get out of where we are. Dennis, please stop relying on pastor and church dogma. Be like the Berean believers, who were called honorable. Get Scripture and read it yourself. It was written for you, Acts 17:11. Thank you and may God bless you.